All right. We're going to go over part one of this study guide for the house on Mango Street, just part one in this worksheet. So this is one section that is going to be on the test over this unit. Describe each character's views of men, women, and gender roles. So that's kind of asking, what is this character's relationship with men like? And when we talk about gender roles, what we mean is expectations based on gender. So that could be job expectations. It could be like roles within the family. And even though we might not think certain things are associated with one gender or another, we might, in our subconscious be so trained to think something. It doesn't mean this is how it is all the time, but it does mean that a lot of times in our culture we snap. If we had to think of something at a snap, we'd make some assumptions. So let's talk about jobs first and gender roles. So if I said construction worker, what image pops up in your mind? What does that construction worker look like? Is it a man? Is it a woman? So think about that. If I said daycare worker, what do you think? Man or woman? The answer is probably different for both of those. Sometimes it goes with roles within families. So in general, now this one is changing more so, which I think is a good thing. That's my personal view. But you say cooking dinner. Who in the family does that? What image comes to mind? Chances are it's a woman, but maybe not. More and more men are cooking. If I said barbecuing, though, a lot of times our society associates barbecuing with men. I mean, you see a lot of ads for Father's Day gifts, and a lot of times barbecue grills are advertised for Father's Day. I've personally never seen a barbecue grill advertised for Mother's Day. When it comes to who's doing like the handiwork around a house, like who has power drills and stuff, again, advertised for Father's Day, not for Mother's Day. Fun story though, actually one time my mom wanted a power drill, I believe, and we actually got her a power drill for Mother's Day. So a little subverting gender roles there. Maybe it wasn't a power drill, maybe it was a chainsaw. She likes chainsaws. She likes cutting down branches around the yard. Not whole trees, just branches. So like we have these gender roles that are assumptions, but in real life, different people might be doing them than our assumptions go with. So we're going to do some of these together and then in this video, and then I'm going to have you do some of these on your own, because I think once we get started, you'll be able to see where we're going with this. So let's talk about Esperanza's views of men, women, and gender roles. So I put in several sections that I think are helpful to understand this, but these might not be the only ones. So if we go to pages 49 through 52, that's the section on hips. So she's talking about hips, and she has these lines in here. This is she's talking about physical differences between men and women. So she talks about like a scientific difference. If you look on page 50, near the top, she says, but most important, hips are scientific, I say, repeating what Alicia already told me. It's the bones that let you know which skeleton was a man's when it was a man and which was a woman's. And she talks about one day you might decide to have kids, and where are you going to put them? Got to have room, bones got to give. So she's really focused on like skeletons, the science, how physically men and women are different. Interestingly, when we have one of those other characters on page 49, Rachel says they're good for holding a baby when you're cooking. And Esperanza's like, she has no imagination. So I'm going to put that in here. Thinks Rachel has no imagination when she says that hips are good for holding a baby while you're cooking. So this might show, maybe we're reading a little into it, but this might show that Esperanza, her mind's not on traditional roles like cooking and having babies. Esperanza isn't as focused on traditional women's roles like cooking and caring for babies. So that's one thing we have there. She wants to be a grown woman. She doesn't want to be a boy. But she also she's not obsessed with the idea of having to hold the baby on your hip while you're cooking. She's not thinking about that kind of traditional role. If we look at another section, pages 88 and 89 are really the big one that talks about Esperanza's views of men, women, and gender roles. It says this on page 88. Nenny says she won't wait her whole life for a husband to come and get her, that Minerva's sister left her mother's house by having a baby, but she doesn't want to go that way either. She wants things all her own to pick and choose. Down at the bottom of that page, it says, I have decided not to grow up tame like the others who lay their necks on the threshold waiting for a ball and chain. On to page 89. In the movies, there is always one with red lips who is beautiful and cruel. She is the one who drives the men crazy and laughs them all away. Her power is her own. She will not give it away. I've begun my own quiet war. Simple, sure. I am one who leaves the table like a man without putting back the chair or picking up the plate. So I'm going to put in here, not just waiting for marriage. I have decided not to grow up tame like the others. So it's implying that she wants to be independent. She's not going to wait on someone else to change her life. She's going to make her own changes in her life. And then she says she is rebelling against gender expectations by getting up from the table and not helping with kitchen chores, just like a man. So, whatever you think of her doing that, it's a little bit, mean not to help pick up after dinner, but she's being a rebel. She's not going with, men get to go and leave the table and rest at ease after supper, and women have to clean everything up. She's not going with that. No, she's gonna get up and do her own thing too. So that kind of shows you her idea of gender roles. And there is one more place. If we go to page 108, that is that very short little section. I pretty much read this one in the symbolism video, but it's where she's talking about wanting a house of her own. She says, not a flat, not an apartment in back, not a man's house, not a daddy's, a house all my own. I'm going to put this in here. She wants her own house. Doesn't want to rely on any man, husband or father, for success or opportunity. So she wants to make her own way in the world, wants to be independent. So those are really Esperanza's views of gender roles. She wants to be her own person. And she has all these examples in her life, most of these other characters on this worksheet, who aren't really taking their life into their own hands, who are waiting on a man to change their life. And I think that's what you'll find as you look through them. The one exception is Alicia. If you look at least that first section about Alicia in pages 31 and 32, you'll see that she is different from the rest. So do pay attention to her. I think you can do the rest of this on your own, but let me know if you have any questions.